Zoom into a career. My name's Gary Clinton. I teach the sports medicine program up at the high school. And then this is Xander Brown, one of my sports medicine students, who's going to be leading the interview of Mayor J.W. Foster, who is also on my advisory committee and a retired paramedic and a EMT paramedic educator and evaluator in Thurston County, has been very active that way. So we have a strong coordination of healthcare services in our community because of J-Dub and his leadership. So Xander's gonna lead the interview, and then this will be recorded. If you have a question, you should be able to go down to like the participants part, and then either in the chat box, question and answer, ask that and we'll answer it, or there should be a way to raise your hand in there, or feel free at the end, we'll have time for questions. Okay, so Xander, you are good to go.
Okay, hello. Good afternoon, Mayor Foster. My name is Xander Brown, and I will be starting off this interview with our first question. Okay, so can you tell us a little bit about, politics and how you're involved in it and what you do as the mayor of Yelm?
Yeah, how long do we have, Xander?
Oh, sorry. I think we have.
No, I know. That was sort of a joke answer in that it would take me all day to tell you everything about it.
Yeah.
But in brief, I'll tell you that I came into the mayor's position 3 years ago. I'd been on the city council before that. And then the mayor's position became open in 2016. I was appointed as the interim and then elected in 2017 and will run again in 2021 for the next term. But that's how I got here. And the mayor's job is basically to make sure that the city is running right, to stay within the budget that's adopted by our city council, and to just keep things running smoothly and take care of Yelm's needs, both locally and regionally. That's my main function.
All right, so next question is, how did you get into this career field of politics?
Yeah, so it wasn't on my bucket list. It wasn't something that I studied for. My wife, Nikki, and I have always just been involved in community service. And way back in 2011, I was asked to join as a city council member, having been on the Parks Committee and the Planning Commission and so forth. It just seemed like a nice transition to the next level of community service. So yeah, I volunteered to jump in there and was elected and then re-elected. And I liked the work so much that it wasn't a huge leap for me to go for the mayor's position when it was offered. Although it was quite a life choice because I had recently retired after 34 years as a paramedic firefighter, and my wife and I were looking toward one path, and then suddenly this job came up, which is not part-time, not full-time. It is a lifestyle choice to be the mayor of a small town like this. That's how I got here.
Nice. All right, so is there any recent predicaments that you've had to solve, or any projects that you've worked on recently?
So I'm just going to avoid the whole COVID-19 thing for today, because obviously that's the most recent and involved challenge that's ongoing. I did want to talk just briefly about the challenges that we have as a small city in a county that's dominated by three larger cities, Tumwater, Lacey, and Olympia. And Yelm's needs are just as important. And my role as mayor is to work collaboratively with those cities, with the county commissioners, with our state representatives to the legislature, to make sure that Yelm gets what it needs. So like getting the bypass finished and getting grants for various projects that we're having down here. It's very competitive and yet needs to be very collaborative. And so recently we were told that we would have some considerable more money coming into Thurston County, about $715,000 from the federal government in the form of community development block grants. This is in addition to what we already had. And immediately the big three, as we like to call them, Tumwater, Olympia, and Lacey, thought that they would just spend that on their programs. And so I had to join voice with the other South County mayors to say, well, let's work together on this. We understand your programs are very important to our region, but we also have some things going on down here in Yelm, Rainier, Tenino, and Bucota, and even over in Rochester that are regionally beneficial. So why don't you help us work those out too? And they're like, yeah, okay, that makes a lot of sense. So conversation, collaboration, working together makes us part of that regional voice.
All right, very impressive. All right, so other than the COVID-19 crisis that is kind of, you know, just taking over the world right now, basically, are there any like major challenges that are facing the government today at all?
Well, sure. Right now, the balance with all cities really, is that balance between revenue and expenditures, like any small business, which really the city of Yelm is. It's a small business. We have 56 employees who work very hard to provide services for the citizens of Yelm and the citizens who live around Yelm who use Yelm as their service hub. There's about 45,000 of those, although the city limits is just under 10,000 in population. So our revenue comes in from property tax, sales tax, and business and occupation tax, which is, you know, dependent upon our local economy, our business economy. And so when we see challenges to that revenue stream, we worry about how we're going to be able to continue providing services at the same level. That's the challenge. That's an ongoing conversation right now. And we'll have to see what happens to our revenue stream based on the infusion of dollars coming from the Federal CARES Act down to our city and to our inhabitants, our residents, who can spend that money locally to keep our circular economy intact.
Okay. Can you tell us something that others might not know about what it takes to be mayor, or some of the skills that you need to have in order to do your job correctly?
Yeah, so again, it's not something you can go to mayor school for. There's not a program in college that you sign up for. I want to be mayor someday. It's a combination of skills that some are inherent in personality, and some are the ability to very quickly absorb new information, analyze that, combine it with other information that you've already gained over experience and education, and then work again together with people to make forward progress as a city. I have to work with the city council, I have to work with my regional partners, and that takes a certain skill set that mostly you don't learn. It's just sort of inherent in a personality to be able to do that.
Right, leading into my sixth question, can you elaborate more on that skill set? Like, what is the important skill set in being mayor?
Yeah, number one important skill set is being able to listen to people and listen to them really. Understand, not just hearing their words, but understand what they mean by that. Sometimes people just want to vent, and it's important to listen to them and their emotion with that, reflect it back to them so that they see that you understand them. And from that point, you can move forward to work on their project, their problem together. So listening comprehensively is a real important skill set. Being able to absorb new information quickly is an important skill set. So reading skills, reading comprehensively is a very important job. Again, I have to read hundreds of pages of information in a month and be able to glean from that the important parts that I need to make part of my conversation with my team to have an effect on something that we're working on. So those are really important. And again, time management is an important skill set. There's so many things to do, and you have to really prioritize which ones you do first and longest and which ones can wait.
All right. So now we're gonna move on to like high school stuff and maybe some advice you have for some high schoolers, mostly about how to prepare for employment, the skill sets you really want to look for in a job after you complete high school. do you have any input on that?
Oh, absolutely. And Xander, I'm going to skip ahead to a question that I know you're going to ask later, if I may. And that's what would I tell myself when I was in high school? If I could go back and whisper in 16, 17-year-old J.W. Foster's ear who was in high school, what would I tell him? Well, I'm here to tell you that I probably wouldn't listen to me because I was 16, 17, 18 years old. And, I thought about the world differently. But I was fortunate enough to listen to a few mentors, one of whom told me that if I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with my life just yet, and I wasn't, that I should consider military service. And so right out of high school, I joined the United States Marine Corps and spent almost 5 years in that capacity. And I learned so much about myself and how to work with other people that it was, very important part of my development as a person. But if I would listen to myself back in high school, I would say pay attention and learn as much as you can while your brain is young and can absorb more. Don't spend a lot of extraneous time on extraneous things. Work on stuff that you might be able to use later on, because pretty soon life catches up with you and you don't have as much time to study or to learn something new. So do it while you can and try to find something that's really enjoyable to you and move in that direction as best you can. Okay.
Is there anything else that you would like to add from this interview? Is there anything that you might want to, is there anything else you might want to say to future students in high school even?
Well, this is a really challenging time for us. It's going to be important for each student to understand themselves well enough to know what it is that they want out of life at an earlier age than we should have to expect people to do that. So you have to be introspective. You have to think of this one life that you get in this one world we live on, and how can you make the best of this? Well, I can tell you, certainly, it's all based on knowledge. Knowledge is the power that will unlock the doors of opportunity in your life. And now's the time to get started on that. Listen carefully to people, listen, then plan, and then act together, because together as a team, we get so much more accomplished than just trying to do things all by ourselves. I think that's an important message.
I agree, yeah.
Oh, and Xander, by the way, I wanted to let people know, no, I did not go to the barber shop. My wife, Nikki, bought herself a pair of clippers off of Amazon. And yep, now I kind of look like I was back in the Marine Corps. And I appreciate that. It's a very cool summer cut. But I want to make sure people knew my wife did this to me. Thank you, Nikki.
Yeah, that's my mom. She's trying to buy herself some clippers so she can finally cut hair. So I could totally relate to that.
So one of the questions that came in, I don't know, can you see those questions, Xander, as they popped up?
I can. I just pulled them up.
Yeah, and I just saw that one of them actually asked, who cut your hair? I answered before I saw that.
Yeah.
But the other part of the question was, with all of the things that you do on a daily basis, how do you prioritize them? And that's a great question, because it's really easy to get bogged down in something that is comfortable and is not as challenging, but it takes up your time. And so well, I was productive today. I worked on this project all day long. Yeah, but these other things didn't get taken care of. And so I learned a skill many, many years ago. In 1996, I came down to Yelm and started the career side at the fire department here. And I had so much to do then that I could have stayed there all day and night. I realized I had to make a list of the things that were the most important for me to get done the next day. So I would literally, at the end of the day, I would make a list of the top 5 or 6 things that I had to accomplish the next day, and put them in order that I felt was the priority. And then the next day, I would come in and start working on those. And of course, answer the phone, go on calls, meet with people as they came up. But I would just keep referring back to that list of priorities until I would get them 1, 2, 3 done, and then make a new list. That was helpful to me.
Yeah. Are there any more questions from anybody at all?
So Xander, when you asked earlier about the skills and things, and I answered that there's no real mayor school that you can go to and get a degree and be a mayor. That being true, once you get into political office here in Washington State, be it as a city council member or mayor, we have a group called the Association of Washington Cities and another group called the Municipal Research Services Center. And they both provide classes, endless classes on how to do budgeting and work with wastewater treatment facilities and how to run effective meetings. There's just, I could literally spend all day long in online trainings to make me better at my job. And I think that's a constant that you have in any job, any career. You don't get it and then just sort of coast. You always have to be learning to keep your skill set up and to meet new challenges as they come along.
Okay, I just want to write down the Lesson Plan Act because I think I might use that for future references because that sounds like a really good idea. I'm terrible at time management.
Well, good. There's a good time to start practicing it then. Yeah. And along with that, and my wife is going to laugh when she hears this a little bit, in time management, it's not just about your work priorities. You have to balance the rest of your life with your career. And that is really a challenge, especially if you love your work, as I do. I really appreciate the opportunity I've had to be mayor of Yelm. And I feel like I'm doing good things for my neighbors and my community. And it's really hard for me to stop that at any given point and just go sit down in my backyard and listen to the birds sing. But man, that is so important to get recharged, revitalized, and just enjoy the life that we have around us. Because Yelm is a beautiful place to just enjoy too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so on that point, it sounds like a great place to end. Thank you, Xander, for your interviewing and your skills. And thank you, Mayor Foster, for your great, insightful answers. You've always been an incredible leader in whatever role you've been placed in. So thank you for your service, not only military, but in our community. So with that said, thank you.
All right, and thanks to everybody who tuned in, and we'll see you out on the prairie.